I slipped my hand-sized slate into the cargo pocket on my thigh, then hefted my loadout bag, thankful for its tiny wheels. I wasn't sure that I would need all the gear inside the bag, as I wouldn't be going into a combat zone again. The scar tissue on my left side had ended that possibility. I could finally bend my rebuilt left knee without screaming in pain, but running was impossible. The surgery on my back that had fused most of my spine into a solid chunk of bone, scar tissue, and rigid med-grade plastic left me stiff. The pain was constant, as was the feeling of something foreign in my left eye. Laughably impossible, since my left eye had been too damaged to save. The surgical droid had removed it, yet I felt the constant need to rub it and remove the imaginary speck of grit that seemed to be agitating it. I shuffled off toward the power mover, a moving walkway that would take me through the installation until I found the right gate. It seemed strange to be back on active duty after nearly a year of surgeries, rehab, and recovery time. Worse still, I couldn't even talk about what had happened, since the operation on Luyten C was classified. The brass didn't want the public to know how close the Orrkasi had gotten to infiltrating the Sol system. While I'd been just as ignorant as anyone else during my slow recovery, I knew more about that fight now. I'd even received access to the after-action report filed by my squad. They claimed I had saved their lives, although I didn't remember it. Their truth was undeniable. Buried somewhere in my kit was a little box with a purple heart and silver star. Medals earned in combat against a vicious, enigmatic enemy. Still, all the decoration in the world couldn't compensate for the hurt I'd endured. I still couldn't be sure if I was grateful that my team had carried me out of that hellhole or not. I had lived in a state of almost constant suffering every day since. Upon finally reaching Gate D, I started the long walk down the docking arm toward the ship that would be my home for the foreseeable future. I knew nothing about the SF Rihla, only that the word meant journey in Arabic. I was familiar with the type of exploratory vessel, as TAC teams were commonly stationed on them. I was unofficially TAC Team 13, the slang term for non-combat personnel. They hadn't booted me out of TAC, but I was relegated to a support staff position. I wouldn't find out what desk they would tie me to yet. That would be explained once I was on board the Rihla. Even without that knowledge, I couldn't imagine a worse way to finish my enlistment term. I had 2 years remaining in my standard 10-year TAC term, and it was clear that for the whole time, I would be stuck doing whatever scut work no one else wanted. From the docking arm, I walked along a long, enclosed boarding ramp, experiencing the short transition to artificial gravity. At the ship, I passed through a wide airlock and entered the main concourse, making my way straight to the deck officer. "Staff Sergeant Vanhorn," I said, saluting the deck officer, "reporting for duty."
"At ease, Staff Sergeant," said the second-grade lieutenant, a woman clad in naval uniform identical to the space fatigues I wore, save for their dark blue color. The name stenciled on her chest read Holly, J., and her smile was genuine. I couldn't help but notice she was very pretty. "You'll be working with Lieutenant Brass down in the Marine section of the ship. That's Level B, Section 8.
"Thank you, sir," I replied.
"Welcome aboard, Staff Sergeant."
I moved past her, mentally taking note of her name. The flight deck where I had boarded was busy with technicians and machinists servicing the drones and passenger aircraft stored on the ship. I crossed the wide space, inhaling the smells of metal, chemical lubricants, and ozone generated by the plasma wielders. This 3-story deck was on the lowest level of the ship. Above it were 6 other decks built on an oval structure with an open center. It reminded me of an upscale shopping center. Only instead of stores, the levels were filled with berths, offices, chow halls, and unit-specific areas. In the very center was the command and control area, an enclosed pod large enough for the senior officers to observe the ship's systems and pilot the vessel. I had spent